Some people might ask, why make videos about the right? Why not Islam, or Christianity, or the regressive left? The answer is easy. We've either beaten or are beating them into a corner ridiculing how idiotic their positions are. Plus, everyone's got to start somewhere. The right wing, despite being very similar to those groups, what with their feelings over decision-based evidence making, hasn't had the same treatment. I think it's time to correct that injustice.
You do not. I own 14 weapons. I've owned weapons since I was 12 years old. I've hunted since I was 12 years old with my father, my brothers.
We's gonna have to dub you a Cletus, aren't we?
We do not need large capacity magazine, semi-automatic weapons in the hands of anybody in this country other than possibly law enforcement.
Good job, man. Good job. You've avoided the honorary title of a Cletus.
Yeah. And I don't go sell them to just anybody.
Good.
Oh, I'll buy some.
Yes.
I'll buy them off.
Might not want to put that award away yet. We might have us a Cletus on our hands.
Oh, there is no, I wrote a book about this. There is no gun control law that has ever been proven to reduce gun crime.
Yeah, this here bitch gets the honorary Cletus title, given to the long distinguished line of people who could really be called a Cletus. It's gotta be a pretty fucking retarded book now, doesn't it? When you're talking about this, you're off by only a margin of 100%. If you actually did research, you'd have figured out a big study was reported on in February that showed that basically every single gun control measure that was taken and studied worked 100%. 100%. By 100%, I mean it reduced gun-related crimes, or if the change was a repeal of gun control, raised gun-related crimes. I really hope your aim is better than your ability to write a factual book, because if it's not, then you're trying to improve to hitting the broadside of a barn. You could aim down and miss the ground, is what I'm saying.
Australia did a confiscation program.
There is no gun control law in the United States of America that has ever reduced gun crime.
Notice the change in words this dumb bitch tried to slip by. In America. I mean, it's not true. We have proof that statement is wrong. Here's a study about how legislation has a very strong effect on total gun deaths. I mean, I don't even understand the logic here. It'd be like saying reducing the amount of cars with nitroglycerin in their tanks wouldn't lead to a direct reduction in the amount of nitroglycerin-related car explosions. Sure, in the end, it's up to the driver. If you left nitro alone in a nice little insulated field with a pretty fence that prevented people from interacting with it, it wouldn't explode. Yet a shitty driver who nicks another car causes it to go boom. If people had the same logic for guns, that they wanted to put their guns out to pasture so they could frolic and enjoy the not being around peopliness of their retirement in a pretty meadow with the nitro, I'd side with them. It's not because I'm afraid of guns, it's because I'm worried about what people with guns will do. Because I can easily tell you what will happen with guns if they're left alone. But people with guns, well, heads look really good when they blow up.
And actually, in Australia, the violent crime.
Wait. This is an actual fact. We can look this shit up. What you end up finding, as you'd imagine in life, is a lot more complex. Homicide stayed pretty much flat. Kidnapping stayed pretty much flat. Sexual assault as well. But robberies rose dramatically. So I guess she's right. You ban guns, then people go around robbing each other's shit all day long. But then what happened in the year 2000? Were guns added back into the fray? Did the criminals end up having stolen enough that you just stopped robbing people? Also, how does this compare to other countries? Canada has a similar rate, just a tad lower. What's America's? Holy bullshit! Okay, apparently guns do nothing for this. Or America has some fucking diehard criminals who defy NRA logic. It's especially damning when you consider this chart showing what would work well as a roller coaster if the reporting had started in 1993 or 94. Also, considering America has something like one mass shooting a day, which, speaking comparatively, would be 70 a year in Australia, which hasn't had 10 massacres since 1996. So, how could we rate her claim? Partially true, I guess, in the same way that saying the UK has more violent crime than America is partially true, but only because more people are shoved in Britain than raped in the US. However, it depends entirely on the year, was going up anyway, except strangely for unlawful entry with intent, which you would think would be the only thing that should be going down, but entirely divorced from reality.
Okay, so you guys, who is to blame then for the Boston bombing?
The people who did it. Next.
It's not a virtue.
The whole point of gun ownership and the Second Amendment is so that I'm a gun owner, you're like you. I think you are?
Yes.
Because we want to defend ourselves. That's the purpose of the Second Amendment. It's not that we can go out and kill people. Nobody wants to kill people.
Let me clear.
I have just one question for you. What exactly do you think will happen when someone invades your house and you use a gun? Do you think you're going to point the gun at them and it's going to politely ask them to leave? Do you think they're going to hear the gun's polite request and say, boy, I sure did invade the wrong house. Maybe I should go get a pizza at Chuck E. Cheese instead. Or maybe, just maybe, it's going to spray them full of lead.
Guns to hunt with.
So what happens if someone comes in your home? You're just going to go?
I don't.
Notice the phrasing, other than the fact that the wording is retarded. Not what happens if someone breaks into your house to do you harm. Just what happens if someone comes into your house. What happens if the UPS guy wonders if you're home because all the lights are on? What if a neighborhood kid or some Hispanic guy, considering where you probably live, hears something inside while dropping a flyer and steps in to see if you're okay? Or even more mundane, what happens if your fucking kid steps in? Are you going to hear a creak, grab your gun, and go check? Next thing you know, bang, you've just splattered someone's fucking brains on the wall. Serves them right for being inside my walls! How many home invaders are you going to find this way? You hear a creak downstairs and you instantly grab your gun and go, meet a shadowy figure in the hallway and blow their fucking brains open? Now, this assumes either a bright middle-of-the-day home intruder or a late-at-night home intruder, and entirely ignores the assholes who rape you by knocking on the door and then assaulting you when you're unprepared. Unless, of course, you stick your gun in everyone's face at all times, which is probably why no one visits this lady and she has 40 cats. So what about just having a gun? What does that do to you? Besides accidentally or purposefully shooting someone you know, like maybe your fucking friend you're drinking with. Well, it actually says you're far more likely to either A, fucking die because of it, or B, fucking kill someone while having no impact on the violent crime rate, because real life isn't a fucking horror film. So yeah, own that gun, bitch. You're just more likely to die because of it, but hey, at least then you'll feel like you have a pair.
And other people
Do you know what the
around me to
response
keep
time
that
is for
from
law
happening.
enforcement? The response time is 10 minutes.
I assume this depends on where you live and when you call, but sure, let's use this as a baseline. I never quite understood this line of reasoning personally. Do you have the gun to defend against a robber? Most robbers wait until you're gone or strike when you're at home. And if you are home, they try to get away due to the whole being identified thing. A crime of poverty where the criminal is armed might result in some idiot going into your house, which could end up with him murdering someone. So do you really want to get into a shooting match with them? There's your 4 times more likely to die thing. The whole I'll get into a shooting match with you over my fucking crockpot, bitch. Also, we've never talked about what guns. I assume due to the nature of her points, she wants everyone armed with an AR-15 or a pistol or a type of assault rifle. I'd say an AK-47, but she'd probably go on some anti-commie tirade, so we'll leave that there. There's an issue with that logic. Much like the Nitro thing, you live in a society where people are dramatically more likely to freaking die to guns. Seriously, take this graph and tell me which country you want to live in. Or about this one that's more favorable. You going to pick Colombia or fucking Mexico? Those armed people are your fucking neighbors now. Enjoy. On a side note, maybe I should get a gun. One that shoots bullets that only hurt stupidity. God knows for this woman, this video might have proved fatal. But hey, that was pretty fast. Isn't there more gun-related stupid we can look at? Can poor people be trusted with guns? Oh, joy of joy and dream of dreams! You can tell this wording isn't going to be followed by sanity, but you're probably wrong on the direction they'll take. Overwhelmingly, Republicans think so. This is the party that thought that trusting Dick Cheney and George W. with a war was smart, right? The one that's electing a failed businessman to be president based on his business experience? I'm not saying trusting poor people is wrong because they think so. I'm saying they're terribly incompetent at picking stuff. But while Democrats fight against taxes on the poor and oppose voter photo IDs because they impose too much of a burden, they seem to be doing everything possible from fees, expensive training requirements, and photo IDs to make it next to impossible for the poor to own guns. Of the two, doesn't this side sound way more nice to the poor? Fuck those assholes. They just want to feed the poor and make them vote. We want them to be able to shoot people. That's real freedom, that is. Also, do you really want people who don't have any firearm training owning firearms? Sounds like a bit of a recipe for disaster. To me, at least. That's too bad, because many law-abiding citizens, particularly minorities in crime-ridden neighborhoods, really do need a gun for self-defense. Holy fuck, you've got to be joking, right? There is little doubt that people who are most likely to be victims of violent crime, again, overwhelmingly poor blacks in urban areas, are also the ones who benefit the most from gun ownerships. Ah yes, fuck giving these people welfare, let's just arm them. What could possibly go wrong? Ah, fuck this is way too pretty a neighborhood for blacks, using Bill O'Reilly logic. Mom, I'm scared. Jeremy just got mugged yesterday and Dad hasn't been back in a week. That's okay, son. We'll get through this. I just know we will. Fucking sweet. Time to get us a shit ton of guns. Quick, get one of those guns, son. We can use it to defend ourselves. I got one. Yoink. I'll take that, boy. Oh shit, it's nearly like if there's more guns around muggers and thieves, more guns will be stolen. I never would have seen this coming. And that's like the most vanilla possible outcome. Research, including my own, has demonstrated this. Surprising lack of citation on this claim, a link to a website that the author himself founded, and that has Ted goddamn Nugent as a fucking CEO, which linked to no particular study, and has a self-pimping of what seems to be a terrible book. But wait, you say, it has 5 stars on Amazon. So does Twilight, but more objectively, this guy's been caught pretending to be students and reviewers and writing glowing reviews about himself. Also, the book has both detractors and promoters of its logic, but while you can find a varied list of detractors, each unique with some repeated collaborations, the promoters, well, a bit less unique, let's put it that way. But either way, let's get back to this guy's article. The police themselves recognize that they almost always arrive at the crime scene after the crime has been committed. Well, unless you get into pre-crime, it's kind of a flaw of the flow of time that cops can't be there the moment the crime occurs or earlier. But criminals are deterred by the possibility that victims have guns, which is exactly why gangs never fight, because both sides of the gangs are armed. Am I right, guys? Am I right? And if indeed a criminal does strike, threatening to shoot is the safest course of action according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics National Crime Victimization Survey. Aren't facts a total bitch? It's nearly like if you pull a gun on someone, they're more likely to fucking shoot you. Who'da thunk it? But Democrats seem to think that waiting for police to arrive from a 911 call is good enough for the poor. Or sometimes you can have a gun and get shot by the cops you called to help you. Next week, Representative Louis Guiterres will introduce legislation that will ban the production of inexpensive guns in the United States. While it's true that some criminals use these guns, these smaller, lighter handguns are also ideal for self-defense. So's mustard gas. I mean, who would fuck with you if you had a canister of mustard gas on you at all times? Get back or I murder us and everyone in a 10-meter radius! The bill passed this week by Maryland State Senate appears to allow only one office in the state for filing for licenses. Great, maybe both sides can come together and try to make places with only one voter ID location or less per district have as many locations as gun registration locations and work to raise both to an adequate number? Massachusetts shows the possible fate of increasing the cost of gun ownership. Since its licensing law went into effect in 1998, the number of registered gun owners in the state has plummeted from 1.5 million to just over 200,000 today. Meanwhile, Massachusetts' murder rate soared from 70% of the average rate for its neighbors to 130%. Okay, again, data. Let's take a damn look. Doesn't seem to be true. Democrats want poor minority votes, they just don't want them to be able to defend themselves. Apparently, Democrats believe that the right to self-defense is something that only belongs with the wealthy. On a side note, I find it funny that this flips the script from the regular Democrats want everyone to be poor talking points. I really think the Dems more actually want to get less guns in circulation. But whatever, I'm not American, so I don't give two shits which side of what aisle over there fucks up in what way. The premise here that's retarded is more guns means a safer society. The premise was also poor people, mostly blacks, need guns because the evil lefties want them all to die waiting for the popo. So what's happening to the white people with all the guns? Oh, yeah, that's not exactly good now, is it? Of course, turning this into a race debate would be entirely retarded. To anyone that's half sane, it should be obvious that it's the lack of gun control that's leading to this, since other majority white countries have far, far less mass shootings and or far less gun-related homicides in general. The USA is number 4, but god damn, look at that incident count. Americans really cannot pride themselves on being great shots if Andros Breivik's one-man child police murder hunt was that much more successful than all of yours. Come on, where is that American exceptionalism I constantly hear about? There you are! I knew you could do it! You guys are pretty good at shooting each other individually. You'd think the opposite would be true if you had terrible aim, and Yanks would be more accurate spraying bullets into crowds. Oh well. To be clear, however, while I personally wouldn't mind a global gun ban, since it wouldn't affect me in any impactful way, I do not support that idea. I had this argument with an idiot who thought that all people on the left blame guns instead of the people who use them, just like how, according to him, all people on the left try to ban speedy cars because of accidents, neglecting the whole we have a fucking speed limit thing, fucking right-wingers. I think a global gun ban would, at this point in history, be burdensome on those who want to hunt, live in rural areas, and the such. But let's be frank. No one needs an assault rifle. No one needs an extended clip. If you're such a shitty shot that 3 rounds from that shotgun won't drop that deer, or you need 15 back-to-back bullets on your rifle to hit your target, you shouldn't be using that gun. Go back to target practice. There are also people who currently need guns. Based on everything that's come out of the terrible situation that is the Middle East, it seems like giving weapons to the Kurds would be a good idea, for instance. They're not liable to turn around and use them on the West the way Al-Qaeda is, they're far more secular and progressive group in the context of the Middle East, and so on. But unless you honestly think that United States and Britain are the same as ass-crack-buck-fuckistan, you're going to have a hard time selling your need for those 15 Kalashnikovs to other people. You're going to have an even harder time convincing everyone that the thing the poor really need isn't food, or money, or a job, but fucking guns.